Assalamu alaikum dear students. I hope that you all are doing well. In this lecture I am going to explain you about ions. What are ions in chemistry? So I'll explain this concept in very easy words and in very easy language. You all know that atoms are the building blocks of matter. In other words, we can say that everything around us is made up of atoms. And atom is comprised of three elements. Number 1, protons, number 2, neutrons, and number 3, electrons. Protons are positively charged particles and protons are based inside the nucleus. And neutrons are the neutral particles which are also located inside the nucleus. On the other side, electrons are negatively charged particles that orbit the nucleus. In a neutral atom, the number of protons equals the number of electrons, and in this way they balance out to zero net charge. So in this lecture, as we are going to study about ions, so how ions are formed. Keep remember that ions are also atoms. And when atoms do not have an equal number of protons and electrons, they become ions. This imbalance in charge gives ions their electrical charge. Ions form when an atom gains or loses electrons. Keep remember how ions are formed when an atom or a group of atoms gain or loses electrons, not protons. Losing electrons result in a positive ion and gaining electrons results in a negative ions. So we can say that cation and anion are the two types of ions. You can keep it remember with the help of this concept cat, because cat is your pet animal and it's a friendly animal, so it creates positive vibes. So cations have positive ions. So when will you be able to form a positive ion? When you are losing electrons. And anion you can keep it remember with onion, because with onion you can start crying when you will be cutting onions. So we can say that this is a negative ions. And how negative ion is formed? When gaining electrons. As we just studied that atoms are group of atoms that have an electric charge. And why do they have electric charge? Because those atoms have either gained or lost electrons. Electrons are tiny negatively charged particles that orbit around the nucleus of an atom. Protons and neutrons located inside the atom, inside the nucleus, while electrons are the tiny and negatively charged particles that orbit around the nucleus of an atom. Normally atoms are neutral. And why they are neutral? Because they have an equal number of protons, positive charge and negative charge. However, when atoms lose or gain electrons, they become charged and turn into ions. So what are the positive ions? Cations. When an atom loses one or more electrons, it has more protons than electrons, because earlier they have equal number of protons and electrons, but now an atom has lost one or more electrons, so it will become an ion, because now there has been created an imbalance between the number of protons and between the number of electrons. So when an atom loses one or more electrons, it has more protons than electrons, and in this way it becomes positively charged. This is called cations. I just explained you that you can keep it remember with the concept of cat. Cat is your friendly pet animal. So you have good vibes, positive vibes with pet cat. Now I'll explain it with a scientific example. A sodium atom has 11 protons and 11 electrons. If it loses one electron, it becomes a sodium ion Na plus with a positive charge. What is the negative ions? When an atom gains one or more electrons, it has more electrons than protons, so it becomes negatively charged, and this is called anion. Example, a chlorine atom has 17 protons and 17 electrons. If it gains one electron, it becomes a chloride ion with a negative charge. I hope this lecture would have been very helpful for you to understand what is an ion and how ions are formed and what are the various types of ions. Take very good care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.